Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to Redirecting. That was one of the roosters wanting to sound off too and give you all a welcome as well. When I take my walks in the morning, sometimes they follow me. I guess they think I'm their mommy, and I am. But anyway, so you may hear them sounding off in the back. And hopefully they won't interrupt too badly. I mean, I can't really scurry them off at this point. They're here. They're not going to run if I shoo them away. So anyway, I'm going to be talking about reparations again. What many don't know, because it wasn't taught in the public school system, is that reparations were paid out after slavery ended. Okay, why don't you go on over there somewhere, okay? Go crow in the distance. You don't have to be so close. Go over there with your buddy. Anyway, reparations were paid out after slavery. And the U.S. government thought it was necessary to pay it. I mean, after all, look at what these people had been through. Look at what they've been through. Losing their slaves and all. Yep, you heard me right. Reparations were paid to the slave owners, not to the slaves. You see, the government felt sorry for these poor slave owners. I mean, it had to be so traumatic to them to have slaves. It had to be so traumatic to them to have slaves, and then all of a sudden, one day, boom, you don't have them anymore. Can you imagine the tears and the sorrow and the suffering they had to go through because they no longer had slaves, all that free labor for so long, and then someone pulls the plug on it? Now, despite the fact that these slave owners had already made millions upon millions from the free labor for so long, the government felt so sorry for them that they couldn't continue in that way, so they gave them reparations. Now, many will argue and say, well, it wasn't called reparations. It doesn't matter what they called it. It doesn't matter if it was reparations. If you got compensation, you got reparations. And even now, I think of how the same old thing continues on till this day. You have white farmers who will get government subsidies. They call it subsidies now, okay? But black farmers, they are having difficulty getting farm subsidies from the government. You see, so it's the same old thing being played out over and over again. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Oh my goodness, these roosters. I love them, except for one. I'm going to just cut away from the slave story and the reparations for one moment. But there's one rooster who Sophia told us that he's been attacking. Now, I did notice him chasing the ducks one day. And so I said, you better leave my ducks alone. But Sophia said when she went over to feed him one day, he came at her, charging at her, and she had to kick his butt, right? So he's still on the attack. And so he done signed his death warrant. He has signed his death warrant. He is going to go in some chicken pot pie or some chicken and dumplings or something like that. Because when you start attacking my kids, that's it. That chicken has reached the end. That rooster has reached the end of his road. Now, it's not the ones that are over here by me right now. Because on the same token, we have a really big rooster who looks just like the other one. But we can tell them apart because this one that's behind me right now is really big. I think that's the Joker over there. But anyway, he, the big rooster, one of the children picked him up and brought him over to my husband. He kind of came over by the front porch. And so my husband told them to bring bring the rooster to him because they were like, this is the nice one. He's really nice. And so he was sitting on my husband's lap. I said, wow, isn't that something? This big rooster sitting on my husband's lap. And he had some food in his hand, and the rooster was just eating the food out of his hand. And I thought that was kind of cute, kind of sweet that animals, they grow to love their owners. It's unfortunate for that other one, though, that decides who thinks he wants to attack now. It's unfortunate for him because he has turned off the love button and his love has waxed cold for us. He is going in the pot. Okay, that's what I mean when I say that rooster signed his own death warrant. He out of here. He is out of here. One day it's going to happen. One day this week, hopefully. So he blew it. He could have just stayed roaming, eating the grass, like like the other roosters. He could have just continued doing that. Just walking around here eating grass. But no, he decided he wanted to come after one of my children. So that is it. But anyways, back to the reparations paid to the slave masters. Sometimes you just got to laugh at this stuff because you say to yourself, these people don't really see or even believe that they are so very clearly and obviously hypocritical, racist, reprobates. They just don't get it. They just don't get it. They have this way about them that you couldn't even write this stuff. It seemed like it's from a fictional movie. When you think of when I say that, I think of how I think. When I think of how I think, and a lot of people are fair. There's people that are fair and they have fair thinking. And they know how to rationalize and say, well, you know what, that's not right. So when you have that type of mindset, you can't even wrap your brain around a person who thinks in the opposite of that. A person who thinks it's okay to mistreat others and just get on with your life as if nothing happened. That's strange behavior and strange thinking to me. Now, I know that a large portion of the population thinks this way, so I'm not under any illusions at all. But for me, it is strange thinking. Very strange, you see. And so I say to myself, this is very laughable. Very, very laughable to me that they thought it necessary to pay reparations to the slave owners and not the slaves, you see. Now, another thing, and I'm going to talk about this in a separate video, is when you have other black people who says that we should move on from this. I mean, there was a brother, he said our ancestors suffered so that we could be free. And he said, we're free, so we should leave all of that stuff alone. He said, we should just, not even focus on those things. We're free now. And I said, okay, I got to talk about this in a video all by itself. That and the fact that other black people just, they don't even want to talk about or think about the past, you see, and they just think it's wrong to even mention it or bring it up because they believe that we are free. That's laughable, too. That's laughable. But when you think of reparations and someone being repaid, I'm like, the government has proven time and time again that they have no fair thinking in the direction of so-called black people. You have all of these you have people who are, advocating for, you shouldn't be anti-white, you shouldn't be anti-Semitic, you shouldn't be Islamophobic, you shouldn't be all of these things. But for the whole world, it is okay to be anti-black. And the minute we start saying Black Lives Matter, which is another way of saying don't be anti-black, when we start talking about civil rights and the civil rights movement, then everyone all of a sudden wants to pull out the get over it card. The get over it card. Utterly amazing to me. But at the same time, we've got to understand that this was all prophesied. It was all prophesied. This is why it's important to understand and know biblical prophecy. those of us who study the Bible, those of us who study biblical prophecy, we already know that everything that we see happening right now is just a play-by-play of what is written, what has been prophesied. So we are not surprised. We're not shocked. We're more amazed that we see it unfolding right before our eyes. When these things happen, we're like, wow, it is all true. What was written in the book, in the text, it is true. So that is what I wanted to talk about this morning on this subject about the reparations for the slave owners, but not the slaves. So for those of you who think we need to get over things, maybe you need to pick up a history book, or maybe you need to grow some sensitivity and cast off that reprobate spirit, because there's a spirit that rides you, that have you thinking that it's okay to be one way towards one group of people and another way towards other groups of people. Now, technically, I know that you're not going to do that, because the Bible talks about how you won't repent and that your hatred was going to be perpetual. It also talks about how it was going to burn in you forever and ever. And we see the manifestation of that. Okay, we see the manifestation of that. Okay, family, I just wanted to give you that nugget of information. And with that, I will say shalom.